have. They've ripped us off left and right. But now it's our turn to do the ripping.
Tonight, President Trump digs in on his escalating trade war as Wall Street comes off another volatile day with stocks sinking late in the session. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. With a new round of sweeping tariffs set to take effect at midnight, there is growing economic uncertainty in this country. The Dow surged more than 1,000 points at the beginning of today's trading session, only to end the day down 320 points. The Nasdaq dropped about 2%, a loss of 335 points, and the S&P 500 lost 79 points. President Trump spoke at a Republican Congressional Committee dinner a short time ago, showing no signs he's backing off of his tariff strategy.
That's why additional tariffs on Chinese goods are in place effective midnight tonight at 104%. Until they make a deal with us, that's what it's going to be. I think they'll make a deal at some point. China will. They want to make a deal. They really do. They want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get it started.
Late today, some Republican senators weighed in, expressing concerns about this trade war.
I know what's in his heart, but I don't know what is in his head. But I know if I were king for a day, I'm not, and I don't aspire to be, I would pounce on these zero tariff deals like a ninja.
Well, the market seems to be stabilizing somewhat, but I think there's still a lot of questions about the negotiation that's out there. President Trump's been pretty clear, hey, I want to get reciprocal trade agreements. I want them to be fair across the world.
And for the latest on President Trump's trade war, you can head to westcoastwrap.com. Our online coverage there includes a breakdown of the new tariffs set to take effect at midnight. Today, two high-profile members of the Trump administration visited Arizona. Border czar Tom Homan addressed lawmakers at the state capitol, touting a drop in border crossings. And Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy was also at the Capitol, showing support for a pair of bills related to ultra-processed foods and food stamp benefits. Homan's appearance before a joint session of the Arizona legislature underscores how that state has worked to tackle issues at the southern border. He says progress has been made in the president's first few months in office, but more work needs to be done.
The numbers now are good. We've arrested more people in the first 2 months under the Trump administration than Joe Biden did all year last year. I'm happy. I'm not satisfied. I was at a panel this morning. ICE director sitting next to me. I want more. There's hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens in this nation with criminal records that walk in the streets. We need to find every single one of them and get them out of this country.
Homan also says the Trump administration is not going to apologize for removing people under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. He cited Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang members causing harm in the U.S. Detainees are being sent to a notorious prison in El Salvador, and the Supreme Court is allowing these deportations to continue, but says people accused of being gang members must be given the chance to legally fight deportation orders. Today, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. also visited Arizona's legislature, and he spoke about the Trump administration's Make America Healthy Again agenda. His visit comes the same day Arizona's Senate passed a pair of bills. One of them would ban food stamp recipients from being able to purchase soda with their benefits. The other would ban ultra-processed foods containing harmful additives from being served in public schools. Kennedy supports the work of Republican State Representative Leo Biasucci, who introduced both of those bills.
I started to look at the ingredients. I went to the grocery store, I turned around the labels of cereals, of pastas, and all these ingredients, and you're seeing that you have red 40s, blue dyes, potassium bromate. All these chemicals that are in the United States are not in Europe. And so when I started to do a deep dive back in the States, I realized that all these ingredients are banned in Europe for a reason. You look at red 3, red 40, potassium bromate, they're causing cancer, they're causing attention deficit disorders, they're causing all these behavioral issues. And what really made me mad is when I look at the box of Kellogg's in Europe, of Fruit Loops. The same exact company that makes Fruit Loops in the United States has a different product in Europe. So in Europe, they've removed the red dyes. They've removed all these toxic ingredients, but yet here in the States, they're still poisoning our children. That is wrong.
Our food today, it used to be nutrient dense. Today, it's nutrient barren. And your body craves it. It's looking for the nutrients which it associates with those tastes. And that's why your body remains hungry all the time. And so you eat more and more, you only gain more and more weight, and you're never satisfied.
And those two bills there we're talking about are now headed to Governor Katie Hobbs for final approval. It's unclear whether she intends to sign off on those pieces of legislation. A new Idaho law will put an end to some publicly funded health care programs for people living in the U.S. illegally. The law, set to take effect on July 1st, prohibits vaccinations, prenatal and postnatal care for women, crisis counseling, and some food assistance for children. It appears to be the first law in the country to limit health benefits since President Trump took office. Shortly after his inauguration, the president ordered federal agencies to enhance benefit eligibility verification and ensure public benefits do not go to ineligible immigrants. Also in Idaho, there is growing outrage tonight over the police shooting of a 17-year-old boy with autism who was holding a knife in his backyard.
In this case, two individuals were within a few feet of an armed, non-compliant individual. The risk was immediate and the situation rapidly evolving.
Neighbors called Pocatello police on Saturday after seeing that teen appear to threaten his mother. He is described as nonverbal and suffering from cerebral palsy. His family and a neighbor who took video of the shooting say officers fired just seconds after arriving on scene and made no effort to de-escalate.
Wanted to help him. Nothing like this was ever expected. We thought the thing to do was help and hopefully de-escalate.
Supporters rallied at city offices on Sunday. The boy's aunt says Victor is in critical condition after having his leg amputated. She says doctors told them to, quote, expect the worst. Today, the governor of New Mexico declared a state of emergency in Albuquerque because of a significant rise in crime. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham's executive order will allow for several dozen National Guard troops to be deployed there starting next month. The governor said that those troops will help to support city police as they try to tackle the fentanyl crisis as well as rising juvenile crime in the city. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, 2 Utah men sentenced to death over a failed coup attempt overseas. Tonight, what's bringing them back here to the U.S.? Also ahead tonight, lottery players across the West are paying more to play the Mega Millions tonight. We'll break down the benefits that lottery officials say come along with that boost in ticket prices. And we will also have your full West Coast forecast coming up here after the break. We have a sad update tonight to that Southern California rescue we told you about last night here on the show. The woman who was pulled alive from a storm drain in San Diego County has now died. 59-year-old Yafang Zhou was reported missing last week. Search teams found her yesterday when they heard a woman's voice coming from underneath a maintenance hole cover. It's unclear how she got trapped in that storm drain. Investigators, though, believe she could have been there for several days before she was pulled out. We're learning tonight a former Major League Baseball pitcher who played for several teams, including the A's, was among dozens of people who've died in a roof collapse in the Dominican Republic. That roof on the nightclub collapsed onto a crowd in Santo Domingo last night. At least 300 people were inside at the time. Authorities have confirmed at least 79 deaths so far. 160 other people have been injured. A search for more victims who may be trapped in all that rubble is still ongoing. Investigators are working to determine exactly what caused that roof to give way. In Arizona, the woman who's already been convicted of killing her children gave her own opening statement today in a new trial over the death of her then husband. Fox 10's Lauren Clark is in Phoenix with more on how Lori Vallow Daybell is faring in court as she represents herself.
Well, there's no way around it. This is a very complicated and convoluted case involving marriage, murder, and extreme religious beliefs. And the woman in the middle of it all, Lori Vallow Daybell, is representing herself as her own attorney in this case.
Objection, speculation.
Sustain.
In the courtroom Tuesday.
Objection, relevance, speculation.
Sustain.
prosecutor Trina Kay lobbying objections over defendant Lori Vallow. At one point, she even appeared frustrated.
Next question.
I got it, Your Honor.
Lori was convicted of killing her children Tylee and JJ in an Idaho courtroom in 2023. And now she's facing her day in court for her alleged role in the 2019 death of her then husband, Charles. But despite not being an attorney, she's chosen to represent herself against the charges.
You see it on occasions where people want to represent themselves because they don't really trust the system.
Attorney Benjamin Taylor, who is not involved in this trial, says in this complicated and evidentiary complex case, going pro se might backfire.
We're going to hold her up to the rules and standards of any other attorney out there who is practicing law. So she won't get any favors or any breaks if she doesn't know the law.
That's why he says it's uncommon for someone charged with such a serious crime to take on a case with no experience. But at the end of the day, he says it will boil down to the decision of the jurors and how they see the evidence presented.
Those jurors who are sitting there listening to her are the ones who decide this case. So do they find Lori Vallow credible or not? So the biggest issue here is going to be whether or not they believe Lori Vallow when she's up there testifying, when she's up there cross-examining witnesses, and when she's up there speaking to the jurors.
Now, it's also really important to note that Lori has sitting next to her advisory counsel. And Taylor tells me at any point, if Lori changes her mind about representing herself, that advisory counsel will have to jump in and finish the rest of the trial. Reporting here in Phoenix, Lauren Clark, Fox 10 News.
Today in court, a California man admitted he wanted to kill U.S. Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Nicholas Roski pleaded guilty to attempted murder. The man from Simi Valley, north of Los Angeles, was arrested near Justice Kavanaugh's home in Maryland back in 2022. Prosecutors say he was armed with a gun and a knife at the time. They also say he wrote over an encrypted messaging platform that killing one judge could affect decisions of the Supreme Court for decades. Roski will be sentenced in October. Prosecutors say sentencing guidelines call for a term of 30 years to life in prison. Two Utah men who were convicted of being involved in a failed coup attempt in Congo have been repatriated to the United States. The men and another American from Maryland will serve their sentences in the U.S. Among the Americans being repatriated is the son of Congolese opposition figure Christian Malanga, who led last year's coup attempt.
They've been transferred. They're in our custody, and we also strongly condemn the armed attacks of May 19th and support the DRC authorities in holding those responsible appropriately accountable. At the same time, we seek consistent, compassionate, humane treatment and a fair legal process on behalf of those U.S. citizens.
The three men are facing life sentences. When the U.S. assumes custody of prisoners convicted abroad, it typically agrees to carry out the sentence of imprisonment designated by that country. We shift now to talk about our weather here in the West, and the heat is on, especially across the Southwest. Here's a live look tonight at downtown Phoenix, where temperatures today climbed up into the 90s. For more on what we can expect for the rest of the week, let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Rosemary Orozco, who is tracking the heat and the conditions across the West. Hey, Rosemary.
Yes, Alex, and those 90s, not the end of it. Temperatures are expected to hit the century mark in the days ahead, so that record-breaking heat over the desert Southwest. Meanwhile, over Washington today, another soggy one, and temperatures in Seattle this afternoon, only 56 degrees. So some areas still feeling a little bit like winter. How about what is going on right now? Seattle reporting 48 degrees. And then you look over towards the Las Vegas and Phoenix. We've got temperatures in the 80s still, so a 40-degree span. Meanwhile, the state of California enjoying some beautiful like weather with temperatures anywhere from 5 to 15 degrees above average for many areas in the Bay as well as Southern California. The West Coast satellite radar, we've got some wet weather here over areas of Washington, Oregon. It is going to push out. The areas over the Pacific Northwest going to get a break tomorrow. This zonal flow right in here, you can see just that track of clouds there, going to get pushed north just a little bit as the ridge strengthens for the Wednesday, Thursday time frame, only to break down once again heading in toward the weekend. In any event, still some beautiful weather over areas of California, and again, areas over Washington and Oregon going to get just a little bit of a break. Here's a look at the forecast into Wednesday and Thursday. That ridge builds in. By Friday, though, it is breaking down once again. So as we take a peek at rainfall amounts, it's the Pacific Northwest, anywhere from a few 100ths of an inch clipping just northern California, but really it's over Oregon and Washington, where another 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch will be a possibility, with another system expected to roll in during the Thursday-Friday timeframe. And taking a look at the 3-day outlook here, starting in the Pacific Northwest, where temperatures are going to remain on the cool side. Mostly cloudy for Seattle tomorrow at low 60s. Then the rain returns, and by Friday, dipping back into the 50s for the afternoon. Meanwhile, the state of California enjoying some beautiful weather. Come tomorrow and into Thursday, parts of the Bay Area will be 10 to 15 degrees above average. San Francisco, very enjoyable in the 60s. And Southern California, Los Angeles, not bad at all. Upper 70s to low 80s, as well as the Intermountain West enjoying some nice weather in Denver over the next few days, with the warmest day being on Friday. But as we turn our attention back towards the desert Southwest and Phoenix, 97 for tomorrow, 100 on Thursday, 101 on Friday. So expected to break some records in the Thursday-Friday timeframe. Alex.
All right, yeah, looks like it. Rosemary, thank you. A rare whale that became beached along the shoreline of the San Francisco Bay has now been euthanized. The juvenile minke whale was spotted near the Emeryville Marina in the East Bay. It had been seen several times near shore over the last week. Scientists from the Marine Mammal Center in Marin County were initially hopeful the whale might be able to return to the ocean at high tide tonight. They later determined, however, that the whale was sick and euthanasia was the only option.
We have exhausted all potential options based not only with the low tide situation, but its continued pattern of stranding. This is potentially as many as the 3rd time that it's stranded in 1 week. This is not normal for a whale. Over the 50 years of the Marine Mammal Center researching whales and understanding their patterns of behavior.
The Marine Mammal Center says a necropsy will follow to determine the cause of the whale's failing health. Just last week, a minke whale also washed up on the shore in Long Beach in Southern California. Well, despite tensions between the U.S. and Russia, the two nations continue an agreement in space. As Fox's Jonathan Seri reports tonight, the latest American astronaut arrived today at the International Space Station aboard a Russian spacecraft.
NASA astronaut Johnny Kim launched from Kazakhstan with 2 Russian cosmonauts. The trio arriving at the International Space Station in just over 3 hours to begin an 8-month mission in low Earth orbit. This is the first space mission for Kim, who's also a medical doctor and former Navy SEAL.
I am a huge believer and proponent in public service, and being able to share the science that we get to do on station, get to contribute to inspiring the next generation.
We had an opportunity to visit the NASA facility where Kim spent months preparing for the expedition. Here at Johnson Space Center in Houston, astronauts train on this mock-up of the International Space Station. Johnny Kim will be launching to the ISS on a Russian Soyuz spacecraft like this one. On completion of his mission, they'll actually jettison this portion. It holds cargo, experiments, other supplies they need for the mission. And then he and 2 Russian cosmonauts will return in this small capsule. To fly Soyuz, you have to be able to read and speak Russian because all the controls and communications are in that language. Despite tensions on the ground, the U.S. and Russia continue their cooperation in space that began with the Apollo Soyuz mission 50 years ago.
At the end of the day, we're all humans doing our parts, trying to make this world a better place. And that's no different with my friends that I get to go to space with, my Russian cosmonauts.
Johnny Kim says he's interested in answering questions about the effects of long-duration spaceflight on the human body to better prepare astronauts for multi-year missions to Mars and beyond. In Atlanta, Jonathan Seri, Fox News.
Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, Mega Millions ticket prices more than double this week. Tonight, players voicing strong opinions about the hike.
Like $2. I'm going to be honest with you, but no, $5 is absolutely too much.
Well, people hoping to win tonight's Mega Millions jackpot are paying more to get in on the action.
I don't like to lose $1, but if you don't play, you can't win. But $5, I think that's pretty excessive.
I didn't like $2. I'm going to be honest with you, but no, $5 is absolutely too much.
Strong opinions tonight. The cost of a Mega Millions ticket has jumped from $2 up to $5 for the first time. Lottery organizers say players now have better odds of winning, though. The odds of winning smaller prizes went from 1 in 24 to 1 in 23. And the odds of winning the jackpot went from around 1 in 302 million to 1 in 290 million.
Get it. I totally get it. Everything's going up. The price of eggs, the price of milk, the price of gas. Got it. We totally hear that. This wasn't a function of inflation. The same percentage goes back to education, but the dollar figure will grow because the price went up just a bit.
Tonight's jackpot, by the way, is $54 million. You can buy Mega Millions tickets in all West Coast states except Hawaii, Alaska, Nevada, and Utah. Well, if you're planning a flight soon, you may want to check your driver's license to see if you have the correct ID. Here's a live look at LAX tonight as the sun is setting. In just about a month or so, travelers here and at airports all across the country will need a real ID or a passport to catch a flight. Fox's Kennedy Hayes talked with travelers at Denver International Airport who were surprised to find out they still have some work to do to meet those upcoming ID standards.
Starting May 7th, you'll need a real ID to fly domestically. If you don't have one, you could be delayed at airport security or even turned away. The first way to check to see if you need an upgrade is to see if your driver's license has a star. Many states, but not all, use this symbol to indicate you have a real ID. If you don't see one, you might need to visit your DMV.
You want to be sure to get an appointment at a DMV, or certain states offer a DMV services at your local AAA branch. The thing with Real ID is that it varies so much across the country because you're talking about different states and how they handle things, different counties.
AAA says appointments are filling up fast in some spots. If you don't have a Real ID by May 7th, you can use your passport instead. The Transportation Security Administration says it will also accept identification, including green cards or enhanced driver's licenses known as EDLs. Congress ordered the switch to Real IDs after 9/11 because they're more secure. Delays push the deadline to next month, but a lot of people actually already have Real IDs and don't even realize it. For example, officials in Texas, Washington, D.C., and Florida report nearly all their residents have Real IDs since their states have been issuing them for years. But millions of Americans in other states will still need to upgrade their IDs.
We haven't done the Real ID because we have passports and we just carry our passport.
I didn't realize I only had a month left, so yeah, I feel rushed now. I'm not prepared. All I know is I got to go to my local DMV.
Documents required to get a Real ID vary by state. However, all states require some proof of identity, residency, like leases or utility bills, and that you are here legally. Once approved, most DMVs mail your Real ID to you, but this could take at least 2 weeks. So if you choose to travel with your passport, it's a good idea to take a photocopy of it just in case it's lost. At Denver International Airport, Kennedy Hayes, Fox News.
All right, another reminder tonight to check those IDs and make sure you have the correct ID before you head off to the airport. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. We appreciate you watching here. We'll leave you with a beautiful sunset shot over the San Francisco Bay. Have a great night.